This is Splice. You're listening to a recorded session from Splice Beta 2022 in Chiang Mai. We've edited this, but only slightly. Hey, this is Rishad from Splice. This one is my session on why your About page is one of your most important media products and how you can build one that works for you. So I'm going to talk about this very, very little loved page that I've seen on a lot of news websites. Because Splice does what we do, Splice is 100% Alan and I. We're in the business of looking at your About pages, right? We look for media startups around the region. We find them. We see stuff on the networks and on the platforms. And we get excited enough to then launch your websites. Follow the trail from your Twitter post to your About, to your Twitter page, your bio, and then we look for your link, and we go to the link. You're seeing that pattern. You know what I'm talking about, right? And we find your website, and then we see the story of the day, we see, the issue of the day, we see your TikTok, and then we say, who are these people? Who are these guys? That's what we do. We want to know who you guys are. And it all culminates in something like this. We either invite you to Planet Splice because we want you to be part of the community. So I'm talking about our need. And I'm just one of your users, remember. But I am a user. As Splice, I'm a user because I want to know who you are. And sometimes to figure out who you are is one of the toughest jobs we face in the business that we do. Really, really difficult. So I'm here to complain a little bit, but I'm also here to say that it's not just knowing who you are because I want to see what you look like, I want to see how, One of the things that Nitin said, interestingly enough, if you were here for the last session, was one of the best ways to market yourselves is to make it really simple for people to get in touch with you. It's funny how ridiculously simple that sounds, but it's also funny that it's often not the case. And especially with the smaller startups. And if you're a small startup or a creator in this room, we really need to know who you are. But, I'm talking about me as one of your users. And now I'd like to switch it back to who you are. The point is really simple. On your website or on your platforms or in your About page, there's a fine difference here. I do want to know about you. I want to know why you do what you do. That's great. But more importantly than ever before, I want to know what you do for me. And telling me things like, I will bring you news that matters is something that comes up a lot, by the way. It's one of the things that you guys, and when I say you guys, I'm rashly generalizing, so forgive me, but it's one of the things you like to say. It's like, what do I do for you? I bring you news that matters. Matters to who is what I normally ask. So tell me what you do for me. And for me, who is that me? Let's agree here in this room with a view that we're going forward in the voice of the user. The idea is, for me as a product design guy, the one thing I can do if I want to do my job well is to represent not my company, not your company, but I want to be the voice of your user in the room. I want to represent your user, whoever that might be, your audiences, your communities. If you start bringing their voice into your room, then we have a chance of creating a viable business. This is what we do. Part of what we do at Splice is we help people build viable businesses, but we also help them test and build media products, whatever that might be. Now, for me, the media product that you produce as a news organization or as a media startup or a journalism creator is obviously your stories. The unit that you measure your productivity by very often is the stories that you do. How much content can I put out? Today I did last week I did 10 stories. Next week, I'm going to aim for 14, and that's going to make me more successful. That's going to be better than last week. But I'm not entirely sure that's how your user wants to measure you, right? So I'm coming back to this being perhaps one of your meta products. This is one of the most important products that you could ever produce for yourselves. It has a direct impact on how people perceive you, and we'll come to that shortly. So here's where the problem begins. Let's say I'm a reader or another journalist. So say I'm a B2C. I'm a consumer of what you produce. Or I am B2B, which means I might be an advertiser, or I might be a grantor or a funder. Now we're talking, right? Now we're starting to, or I'm another journalist who might want to collaborate with you. Or I'm an organization halfway around the world, and I desperately need to know who you are because I need to bring you into my network. Or I want our networks to collaborate. So think of all your users. Think of all your different users. Think of all the different voices. Think of who these people are. So I'm thinking that if I can't find you on your About page, and if I see we bring you all the news that matters, or we bring you the untold stories of people, or whatever it might be, right? Who is we? Very often there are no names, there are no faces, there are no email addresses. There might be a little line of social icons in the corner. I know nothing about what I'm up against, right? I have no idea. There's this faceless organization. So how do I trust you? How do I read your stories? How do I apply to work with you? Or perhaps apply to fund you? How do I do all of this? The idea is to make it easy. But let's look at how people come to you in the first place. Let's say you're having a dinner party, right? How do they make their way there? Chances are I first spot you on search, or you send me an email, or I see you on social. I see your story and I think, wow, okay. Story, story, story. I look through your website. My landing page is not your home page. My landing page is your story page or your video page. There I am, and I read your story. And then if your related search thing works well, then I read another story. Oh, there's another one there. Then you've got your WordPress algorithm. You've got your Yoast SEO all set up. So I get another story and another story. Okay, these guys do a lot of stories about left-handed people in Cambodia. Okay, something. Now I want to know. Now, typically, over and over and over again, when I look at usage patterns and funnels and how people wander around the internet trying to make their way to your house for that dinner party, they go to the home page, and then they go to the About page. And the drop-offs are massive. And I'm generalizing again, unfairly. But there's a massive bounce. People disappear. What I'd love to be able to do is that this little talked about, this underrated little page, the About page, that page for me is your hero. That page for me, especially, again, with journalism creators, with all kinds of creators, with media startups, that page should be your hero. You need to talk to that. You need to give that page love. You need to in fact, do more than just love it. I think you need to hire it. Hire it like as an employee. Because this is the opportunity you have, right? You begin a conversation. I'm not talking about conversation just in terms of content. When I say conversation, I'm talking about how do you begin that sales conversation? How do you begin that conversation with the funder? How do you even begin to say, hey, let's meet, let's chat. I'm really interesting. I think you need to hang out with me. Right now, all you're using, and again, forgive me, but I'm talking about a lot of people None of you might be guilty of this in this audience, but all you're using currently, I'm seeing, is your story. And somehow that story about left-handed people in Cambodia is going to make people say, these are amazing people. We will find them, no matter how hard they are to find, and we will introduce them to people, introduce them to networks, give them funding, and find them audiences. I'm not sure that's going to work, right? So I think this is your opportunity. Begin that conversation. You start to welcome them in. You say, wow, am I glad you're here? Here you are. Let's talk. You introduce yourself. You show them around. You say, here's what we have. There's a whole lot more to us than you ever thought was possible. We have a lot going on. And when you say that, again, I go back to one of the earlier slides, which is, it's not about you. It's about what you can do for me, your user. Telling me that we do news, we have ethics and strong values, and we're independent, and we're journalists, and we're dedicated, fantastic. But what I would love is if you told me what problem you're solving for me, your user. And if you also understood that I am not one kind of faceless person. There are many kinds of users that you have. One of those is your reader. One of those is a potential collaborator. One of those is a potential sharer. One of those is a potential somebody who wants to come work with you. One of those wants to invest in you, and one of those wants to fund you. How do you start that conversation and make it really, really simple? You show them around. And you can do all of this with like simple HTML or a no-code website. You can say, here's why we do what we do. Here's why nobody else does what we do. This is the beginning, right? We want to know who you are. There are ways for you to tell me. When you come meet me at Beta, tell me who you are. It's like a conversation, right? What do you think about what I do? What can I do better? What should I stop doing? I'm interested in what you tell me. But let's really get into this page, this much maligned about page. How can we make this really, really powerful? How can we make it do its job? I find that whole jobs to be done thing, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, doesn't really matter. I think one of the most useful ways that I find to be able to understand what to do with, say, my podcast. What do I do with my Twitter account? What do I do with my website? The way to understand what that strategy is to give it a job. It's like hiring it to do something. Put it through a little interview. Give it a job description, right? You need three things when you hire this employee and you want to set them up for some success. You've got to give them this job description. What are your expectations? Here's what I want you to do for me, dear About page. Here's how I will assess your success or failure. You've got to meet these deadlines, you've got to meet these milestones, and I'd love to be able to see these outcomes, right? And you've got to give it a good salary. You've got to pay your About page a solid salary, right? Let's look at that job description. What do you want this person to achieve? Let's start to think about what problem this About page can solve for your user. What is the problem I'm looking to solve? I want to know who you are. I being, in this case, your user. My problem is, I've seen all your stuff, blah-de-blah, I've seen your articles, I've seen your posts, I've seen your videos. Solve that problem for me. I need to know who you are, and then I need to be able to get deeper into this because I want to know who you are, because I want to know what you can do for me, right? So clarify the mission. What is it that you stand for? What is the why of your organization? What is your why? Here is why we do what we do. Show who we are. Literally, show me yourselves. Display social proof. So when you show me yourselves, Show me also what other people think of you. That's very empowering for me. When you tell me this is what other people think of us, involve me. If you have a mission, one of the best things you could do as a next step is involve me in that mission. Tell me how I can get involved. So then it becomes a real conversation. It's not some kind of monologue with some guy standing on stage with a mic and talking at you. Then it's an actual conversation, right? Here's something we love at Splice. When you open up your sources of revenue, we see some people do this spectacularly. It's disarming, it's surprising, and it's instant trust. I'll give you a couple of examples later, but you already know what I'm talking about. Show your successes, but then trump card that. Show your failures. We did this, we won that. Award-winning journalist, rock and roll. But then tell me where you failed. Here's a thing we tried to do, and it was a spectacular disaster. This really endears people to you. Make us shareable. How do I share all of this? This is still the job description, by the way, right? It's a pretty solid job description. There's a lot at stake. All of this is just your about page. Make it easy for people to give us money. Build and enable and find a community. Where are your people? Find them. You don't have to build that community, by the way. They're there. Go find them. You like chess? Find a chess club. It's as simple as that for media organizations, right? And then encourage contact. Just like Nitin said, one of the best ways to market yourself is make it really simple for people to get in touch with you. So we've got all those. And then here we are. There really is money involved. You do set aside that budget. You want to be able to assess this over time, over and over again. Did you perform? Let's have a little performance review. Here's what we set out. Let's measure that, and let's adjust your pay, right? Because you're investing money in this and time. I'm going to run through all of those really quickly in detail, what exactly I meant, and maybe there's a case study or two in there. Why do you exist? What is your why? And a why, I think, the meat and bones of your about page, I think is best described by saying, here is the problem that we solve for this person, this kind of user. So when somebody comes to us at Splice, for example, and says, hey man, what do you think? We want to do you think we should do a podcast? And we go, I have no idea. What do you mean? So what problem are you solving with that? So if you're not solving a problem with that specific thing that you want to do, and you don't have a mission that's tied into it, you probably don't do it. Or find whose problem you're solving, right? Solving a problem is pretty easy, right? It's the definition of strategy. At least the overly simplistic definition of strategy that we talk about at Splice, which is, here's my problem, here's my solution, and here's a really complicated way to get there, right? But you have to be able to define, here's the problem, here's the solution we think would really work, and then here's how we'll get there. We'll figure it out. It's messy, but we have a plan. Then what's your theory of change? What is your mission? What do you stand for? What is it that you're looking to change from A to B? This currently sucks. We want to make it amazing. That is the change you're talking about, right? And we're going to do it like this, right? How does it tie into your user's life? Then the basic need of an about page, right, is I want to know who you are. It's amazing how many pages we come up against that there's no identity, and that also means there's no credibility. It's difficult. It's really hard. And we see a lot of people suffer because of this. That these are spectacular organizations in really difficult parts of the world, up against really difficult governments or difficult situations, and they're unable to tell me who they are. They're unable to tell us how to help. I don't know how to get through to them or in touch with them. We're in the hero-making business at Splice, but if I can't find who you are, I can't make you the hero that you deserve to be, you know? Make it simple for people to know you, you know? You don't want to look like that. You want to be able to show people, right, who you really are. And there's audiences that consume whatever products you put out, but there's also collaborators or potential clients or potential advertisers and funders. Stand behind your mission in the most literal way possible. Again, it's like your conversation at Beta. Everybody, I find it hilarious that we walk around meeting each other and we all look at each other's chests like that. It's like, I'm looking at your about page, right? These things we designed as a little about page for you. Then I dig in deeper. Then you have a blink that you can show me. Stand up for what your mission is. Say, this is me and this is what I stand for. This is my name. Here's how to get in touch with me. That makes me answerable. Hold me responsible for this thing, you know? And start a conversation. Be an actual human being is all people are asking of your about page. So just show up, you know? It's pretty easy to stand out. Some basic facts about yourself. So who are you people? You think of your conversations. You ask them a bunch of things. What do you do? Where do you live? How long have you been doing this? How many hours did you fly here? You know, how many bags of baggage did you lose? And who do you do this for? Which is mission, right? In the most basic language, who are you doing all this for? All of this stuff that we do, who is it for? Then the social proof thing. The next thing on the list in that job description for your about page is, like, let's find endorsement. Let's find social proof. If Badar found what I did useful, I'm going to get in touch with him and say, listen, man, were you really excited by this thing that you found useful? Were you able to use it for your work? Do you mind writing, you know, can I use what you just said to me in my email? We're shameless like that. We've written to a few of you, I'm sure. You say, hey, you know that thing you said on your Twitter, or that thing you said in your email, can I put that on my website? And I'll stick it in there. I'll copy, paste, put big quotes in pink. Badar Alam, you know, he said this about me. Hey, I want that endorsement, you know. This guy's a rock star, by the way. You need to get in touch. It's a powerful signal of trust. So put that endorsement in there. Put it in quotes, just like that. Now your user's saying, well, that's all very well. You're a rock star. Now, what about me? What can I do? I want to be part of this. You've impressed me. Nice mission. Nice endorsement. Anu Harshu likes you. How can I get involved? What can I do now? You know, I don't want to just sit on the sidelines. Some of us do, but some of us want to get up and say, right, how do we do this? Make it simple. This is hardly simple. But tell me what I can do. It's not just email you, right? There's like this pile of things you can do. And you know what? If you make it possible, people will do this. Because why? Because each one of these is a verb, right? Each one of these is a way for me to solve the problem that I have on your website. I would like to buy your t-shirt, right? Become a member, you said. See, I said I want to buy a t-shirt. She's like, be a member first. Do you have product services? Is it just that you want me to read your articles? That's it? And then what? Read another one? Okay, sure. But can I advertise? What about listen to something? Is there something you're planning to put out that I can tell you, yes, good idea, or no, please don't? What about, you know, attend a workshop? What about donate to something? Can I apply for a job? Listen to something. Can I please fund you? How do I do that? How do I even join your membership program? So at Splice, we call this the menu problem, right? If you don't give me a menu, I don't know what to order. If I walk into your establishment, you're like, hey, what do you have? It's like, whatever, man. But, I mean, whatever. Terrible way to run a restaurant. So it's not a buffet. It's a specific thing. In fact, when you're a small organization and you do one single thing, you know those restaurants that give you one single thing on the menu with a vegetarian option and a couple of drinks? They do so well because they've been able to understand what it is their clients want. They've done some research. They've fit themselves in with that footfall on that street, and they've seen that there's nobody else who does this here. And they've also been able to simplify their inventory, and they make that one thing that they do really, really well. And they're open to feedback, so they're flexible. You don't want that much salt in your salted caramel? No problem. Let's figure that out. You do that really well, and then you do it again with something else. Very, very small steps. This is what your About page can do for you, right? It's a la carte. Then, I want to know how you make your money. This is a hard thing to do, but when you do it, there's such rewards, right? So many rewards. How do you make your money? Why should you tell your user this? Because you want her trust, and so you want to be transparent about how you're funded. There are people who do this really beautifully. It's sometimes just a simple statement. We sell some ads, we do some sponsored content, and we have a couple of grants from these guys. In fact, then we use those to pay salaries, we use this stuff to buy tech, and then we use that to, make salted caramel. Tell me how you succeed. Tell me about all the awards that you won, which is fine. But then, you're still just talking about yourself, right? So tell me what you do for me. And one of the nice ways of bringing yourself closer to your audiences and your community is talk about your failure. Again, especially if you're a creator, especially you're a small media startup. There is nothing more endearing than somebody that says, I'm trying this, I didn't know how to do this because I failed in this way. I'd love some help in order to see if this is something you guys want. It makes people want to connect. So this guy, right? So Tanmoy writes mental health news. He's all about, the truth as he sees it. And he tells you how he spends his money, where he got his grants from, how he hires, what he won, and how much he failed, and how hard he failed. He'll put out like this little annual report, and he says, financial numbers, stuff that didn't work. In fact, he doesn't even have stuff that worked. And he says, therefore, here are my plans. And it's all on Twitter. It's building in public and failing in public. Speaking of public, you want to make your romance public with your user, right? How do I tell people how much I love you? Is there a quick social way for me to spread the word? You can do this on your About page. Hey, talk us up. Did you like this thing we did? We would really appreciate if you, in fact, here's a little canned tweet we made for you. It's corny and it's silly, and it takes a tiny bit of work and a very tiny little bit of no code. And you give people a way to tell them that they support you. They get the word out. And they say, support these people, subscribe to them, buy their t-shirt, join their membership, fund them. Let me be your champion, right? So you make it really simple. You're having users recruit other users. This is something we've actually heard users tell their very stunned media startups and media organizations. Make it simple. This is part of the menu problem. Make it simple to take my money. We did an audience study for Puma Podcast in the Philippines. We did this thing, and we said that, we helped Puma Podcast talk to their audiences, to their listeners. They're 5 years old, and they said, we put out stuff for people to listen to. We've never once actually listened to our audience. So can you guys help us do this? One listener comment, this guy actually said this. We ran a number of focus groups. These were all online. One guy said this, and other people said this repeatedly in different forms. And he said, can you please make it easy to take my money? And Carl, the CEO, I still remember his baffled face on the Google Meet. He was just like, "Wait, you want to you want to give me money for what? Just because I want to donate to something I support, right?" So it's simple. Clarify your mission. Here's how you can support it. Here's the call to action. Here's a donate button. Here's a join button. Goes to PayPal, goes to something. So this is shared purpose. And this is such a great step in building a community. You want to be able to have people understand that if you make your ask clear to funders and to potential investors, or even to potential collaborators, that these are folks who are looking for impact with the funding that they do. Help them by making their work easier. It's one of the best things you can do for your audiences and for your users. Then I want to meet other people like me. You're solving a problem for me as a newsroom or as a media startup. Now I want to meet the other people that you do this for. So you address one person's problem, and they're grateful to you. And then you say you're not alone. That's a shared mission. So in fact, I'm back to Carl. He recently sent us an email saying we just had our first in-person audience engagement activity, he called it. What this really was a jam session. Because a lot of them are musicians, and they work in a podcast company, so they opened up their studios. They said, hey, we jam anyway. Would some of you like to join us? Their listeners was like, oh, wow, finally. It's a powerful thing. They had one guy who said, I was so depressed, I haven't picked up my guitar for 10 years, and you made me want to play music again. You gave me a reason to be part of something bigger than myself. It's a big deal. There they are. It was amazing. It cost them some pizza for dinner. So the point of this community, that again, your About page is building for you, by the way, or helping you build. It's for them to find each other. It's not about you finding a new customer base. These are not people you're making sales to. Don't sell them T-shirts. You're convening them. You're allowing them to meet and find each other because they have shared purpose. So show them ways to meet. Show them ways to work together. Show them ways to grow. This is very powerful. We're learning this as we go along. At Splice, we've been around for 8 years. We're still figuring it out. One of the greatest joys is for us to see you folks hang out, and there's these cries of delight, and then people hug each other. That's what this does, or make somebody pick up a guitar that makes them happy after 10 years. And then finally, you want to get in touch with me. So what's the point of all of this if I don't know how to get in touch? Make it really simple. We have a terrible habit at Splice. We respond to every single new subscription in person. It's sometimes a lot of work. It's sometimes really painful. We meet folks for coffee. We meet them for a drink. Sometimes we meet them at Beta. But it's the number one thing that allows us to learn about what it is our users want from us, what it is they want from in their lives, what are the problems they have, and how can we solve them? Because we're B2B. We're talking to other media people. So you don't want to be sending those email newsletters from your organization. You want to be sending them from you, as literally you. You want to sign off with your real name, just like your regular email, and have a regular conversation with your folks. It goes a long, long, long way. So then you want to give your audiences ways to meet each other. Use all the things that you have at your disposal. This is what we like to call the golden age of media. You can do anything you like on your phone. You can launch whatever it is you like right now. Make it simple. Make it as simple as possible. And let them give you feedback. Let them give you requests. Respond to every single one. Is something not working? Has my website turned black all of a sudden? Are my links broken? Does this not show up? take it on board and get back immediately, as quickly as possible. Get back with, we fixed it, or get back with, we don't know how to figure it out. Chances are you'll find somebody who'll say, I'll figure it out for you. I don't know if Rahul is here. There he is. We, in the first beta 2019, and he's a veteran of beta, Alan and I decided we'd make a Google map. And we kind of tried to figure it out, and we put a bunch of pins on the map and Chiang Mai, and then it was a complete mess. Rahul sent us one simple email saying, guys, your map is broken, which a lot of people do. And we said, yes, but, he said, please, I'll fix it for you. And he did, and it was perfect. And then this year, we kind of managed to do it by ourselves. He fixed it for us. It was effortless. This year, we put out that how do you make a map of, where are people coming from, destinations and all. And one charming gentleman named Yanok decided, I'll do it for you. And he did this wonderful Mapbox thing with all these pink lines of, planes coming in from all over the world. I still haven't been able to put it on the damn website because it turned black. So I'm waiting for Squarespace to fix that. But that's what you can do. That's what your users will do for you. That's what your community does, because you just had the risk. You were able to give them the courtesy of saying, I acknowledge you, I respect you, and let's make this a two-way thing. Let's talk. So why not make it about you? In fact, why not make it about your user? So the weird thing about your About page is, it should be about you, but then if you have the ability to be able to extend it beyond yourself, your About page in secret is really not about you at all. It's really about all the ways that you are useful and relevant and valuable to your user, whoever that might be. So, if you want to really make one, it's very simple. You need a few Post-it notes, fill them in. You literally write all of these things in simple, basic sentences that have nothing to do with you and that have everything to do with solving your user's problem. And then I'll share this with you. I'll share it in the group. So pick a wall, stick them from top to bottom, and then send them to your design person. Or better still, use some kind of no-code platform and just whack them all out yourself. It's really basic. And then you see that About page employee go to work for you. And you see those results come in. That's what I have. Go for it, yeah.
This is a question, I guess, for our organization, but also a lot of organizations who were based in Myanmar and other countries where there's a lot of security risk. We used to have a list of photos of all our employees on the site. We were a lot more open with what we do and who we do stuff for. But since 2021, we've been super careful. We even made our social platforms private for a long time. And this is only in the last few months we've been daring to be more public. So we really see the importance of being able to kind of communicate as a real person to our audience, but how do we navigate that in the face of security risks?
That's actually a great question. I'm going to keep this short. Sorry, I completely screwed up on time. But the way to tackle that is to say exactly that. So put profile pictures that are blacked out, put names that are redacted, and say the reason we're doing this is because it's a security threat. We really want it, we wish we... What are you doing by doing that? You're doing a number of things. You're making it very clear what your mission is. Your intention is clear. You've made it clear that you understand the problem that your audience has, which is basically, who are you? I want to know who you are, and I want to know what you can do for me. And figure out another way that you can do that for them, either with an email that is, goes off somewhere, a Discord server or something, Signal or some such thing. But then you've made a number of choices and you've made it very clear what your mission is and what your stand is by actually obliterating all that information.
Just a quick question. How often should you update your About page?
Ask your user. So every single time that you have a new question, you update it. Every time we got a question from people about beta, we would put it in the FAQs, and then we'd say, hey, we've got this question. Thank you, folks. You've been listening to a session recording from Splice Beta 2022. Let us know what you think. You'll find us on splicemedia.com. This is a Splice podcast, and it's produced by Norman Chella at Podchaser. We'd like to thank our sponsors Google, International Fund for Public Interest Media, International Media Support, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Luminate, Media Development Investment Fund, Meta, and Telem Media. This is Splice.